Doesn't even need a signature.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the August 13th, 2018 Board of Directors meeting of the Sewer Authority Midcoastside. The meeting's called to order. Here we have roll call, please.
Director Blanchard,
Here.
Director Warren,
Present.
Director Slater Carter,
Present.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Albert,
Here.
Director Penrose.
Here. And so now we have anyone wants to see something not on the agenda for the closed session tonight? Otherwise, so nobody wants to speak, so now we can go into the closed session, that's all right. Okay, welcome back. We have now back in open session, and we have no reportable items, of course. And now we have item 5, public comment. So we have no one who wants to speak. And then we go to item 6, the consent agenda. So we have item A, approved minutes from July 23rd, 2018. And B, approved disbursement of August 13th, 2018. And C, received quarterly investment report for the period ending June 30th, 2018. So, we have a motion.
Looking to see if I marked anything in
Okay.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
yellow.
Second.
All
Scott got it.
Hold on.
Let's do it.
That was quick.
I think that's right.
Okay, so, yeah.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
I wasn't there for the
Right, right,
July
gotcha, thank
23rd
you.
meeting.
One abstention.
Okay, there you go, one absent, thank you. And now we have item 7, and a adopted resolution, adopting the addendum to the initial study mitigate negative deck for the weather facility expansion project, phase 1. Okay.
Yeah, Hackman Bay apparently has not seen the design documents.
It's, well, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, but there's some stuff in here that could be what you're looking for among the 300 pages here.
That item is actually the next item, 7B. 7A, what we're talking about is
Oh,
the,
7A.
yeah, 7A is actually the addendum to
Right.
the initial study and mitigated net deck, which was actually adopted by the SAM board in 2008 for the wet weather project. And for the wet weather expansion project, this is an addendum.
Great.
So, on PDF page 35, the zoning that it mentions for the area has now been changed as of, a bunch of years ago, but subsequent to the preparation of the first version of this. So I wonder if the addendum needs to note that the zoning's been changed to superseding zoning, which is nearly identical to earlier zoning. Should it note that, or is that not material?
Is there a change in the use?
Not sure exactly what you're asking.
Well, because the zoning gives a list of uses and,
Did it change to,
The primary difference between the old zoning and the new zoning is twofold. One is you can't build houses there anymore, and two, the laundry list of possible uses is greatly expanded, none of which anybody will ever do.
now, are you saying the zoning was changed before the initial environmental documents were done?
What year was the LCD amendment approved by the Coastal Commission?
That I'm not sure. 2009 was when the environmental document, original environmental document was approved.
It was after that. Might have been
I think
2010
it
or
was after,
2011.
yes, so,
Okay.
So the El Granada land that was zoned Community Open Space Conservation District, but not the Montero land, was rezoned to El Granada Gateway, EG. But it's a difference that isn't material to this project.
that was my question.
Yeah.
I think just adding a note would be useful.
That's what I would
And an
think.
explanatory note saying no material change for this project. but we could just get that, we could approve it with that change.
And I just don't wanna leave, a mouse hole for somebody to come back at us later.
I appreciate that, I think that's important.
Cause there's people that will look for the tiniest little thing.
Really?
Maybe one day we could meet someone.
I don't remember if it was this agenda item or the next agenda item, but, it's kinda hard to tell scrolling through this thing where, these things begin and end. If I recall, I'm not scrolled down there yet, but I think it was on PDF page 82 maybe, there's a document reference to a document written by Clark, Matthew R. for the CCWD project, which I just found amusing.
Yes. Do we need a motion to approve this?
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution, so we need a roll call vote. I move that we approve this.
Well, the motion should be to adopt the resolution.
To adopt the resolution next in order with the suggested change on zoning.
Second?
Okay. Any more discussion? You wanna vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's a resolution, I think we need to do a roll
A
call.
roll call.
Is that correct?
Okay.
Yeah, it should be.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, it's a resolution.
Director Blanchard,
Here, aye.
He's voting here, oh no.
Director Warren,
Yes.
Director Penrose,
Aye.
Director Albrecht,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Director Boyd.
Aye.
Morning, Jordan.
Who seconded?
I made the motion, Leonard seconded.
Leonard, that's right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So now we go to B, is that right? Review and approve the design documents for the wet weather facility expansion project, phase 1.
Yes, so the wet weather facility expansion project, design documents were, draft design documents, the plans were actually sent to all the member agencies, and we had a meeting here at SAM a couple of weeks back, and there was participation from all the member agencies, and I think, if I remember right, I think Vivian was on the phone, am I right, Tim? Vivian was on the phone, and then Pippin was there, and there were no significant comments.
Yeah, she said today that she had not seen the
Maybe not the
design
final
documents.
documents, but the draft documents were discussed and there were no comments in it. So it was just completed without any much change. But nevertheless, these documents are going out for a bid only on September 4th.
Well, I think her feeling was that if El Granada and Montara had reviewed them and were happy with them, that Half Moon Bay would be as well, but she just didn't understand that the final documents had been seen.
And Keishan, you're comfortable with all of this, since
Yes.
you're the SAM engineer?
We're comfortable with that. We can still get the member agencies to take a look at it once before advertising. If there are any changes, we can make the change and send it out for the advertisement. But we are now seeking board's approval to go ahead and advertise for the.
I have two issues.
Yes.
Sam needs to ask GSD for an amendment to, trying to remember what staff said. I think they characterize it as an amendment to the easement agreement.
Oh.
I can find that in my email here.
Can that be done, before the start of construction, but the bids can still go out?
I don't see why not. Just can't imagine that GCSD would say no.
Right.
The other issue I have, and this is actually a lot more significant, when did we complete the first phase? 2012?
2012 is what it says in these documents.
Well, here we are 6 years later, you can still see the scar there, and I'm still pissed about it. And so I wanna know what is gonna be in these documents this time to guarantee that we don't do the final payment here, which Granada was forced, strong-armed into approving by the rest of the SAM board when the contractor had not met the contractual language for the reseeding of that area. And we're not gonna go through that again. SAM has to guarantee Granada that it's gonna be restored properly this time. And so I want different language there, I don't know what it would look like, but I want different language that makes sure that if Granada's not satisfied with the reseeding, including any necessary watering, that SAM doesn't make the final payment.
Has,
It was
has-
also, we had unusually high winds that year, and it was.
Not a problem,
and it was dry.
Leonard, give me a chance.
okay?
There were some unusual winds, and there wasn't watering planned, and it's not clear that, although we were told, but we didn't have anything really compelling to show that the soil had been distributed in a way that was going to give it a chance to succeed. I think it would be wise to say, we expect vegetation coming up on this property after the project, and the bid has got to contain something that's gonna, look, plenty of environmental projects are done where you're pretty sure something's gonna come up, and they can, like at the tunnel, they sprayed a green substance on the ground, and it contained everything necessary to hold the soil and the seeds while they had a chance to germinate and take root. So it's
I would
just a matter of making sure that it's
I would
provided.
suggest not including the reseeding in this bid, and yet a specialized native plant nursery that will put in, I don't even
Interesting
know,
idea.
I don't even know if
Well, some of
there's-
it had to do with the setting aside of the topsoil.
right.
I suspect that they didn't have good separation between the topsoil and
Well,
what was below it.
Native plants don't really need a whole lot of
If you
topsoil.
bring the clay to the top and you mix that into the topsoil, everything's gonna have a hard time
What,
growing.
Having gardened with native plants and grasses for a long time, I can tell you, some you actually require clay. But that aside, if there hasn't been an inventory, my guess is most of the plants there were invasives,
probably.
not natives. It would be just as easy to spread clover seed on it, and clover seed will take off just about anywhere, and it's pretty drought proof, and it stays green, and it puts nitrogen back in the soil, it's good stuff. And clover comes everywhere from 4 inches to 4 feet tall, depending on which species you're looking at. But my suggestion would be that we work, if we want natives, to work with a native plant company we could call
Well,
Post.
this document says seeds for 5 different native, it doesn't name them, but it says seeds for 5 different.
Okay,
native-
again, I would suggest that we remove that part and get in touch with a native plant specialist and talk about maintenance as well.
So basically, you're saying split this contract into the big project and the little
Exactly.
yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
I know someone, I know Chuck Kozak works for a company, Go Native. And I've talked to him about the projects they've worked on for years.
Now, let me remind everybody, Matthew Clark, the archaeologist on our board, said at the time that he believes that they did the proper segregation of the topsoil, but what happened is because the hydro seeding didn't take and they didn't water it, he says the fine particles blew away, leaving only the sand. And so the
That's
soil
quite
there's
likely.
been, the soil there's been ruined
Right,
by the.
so
the-
perhaps it should be a separate contract, talking to Go
Yeah.
Native, to
yeah.
get it done correctly. Frankly, just like the traffic medians in Half Moon Bay, that's the entry to Granada, and it is worthwhile to get it done right.
Yeah. So how do we structure this? Because, Granada's gonna want assurance that Sam is gonna do the second contract that Catherine just outlined.
Well, thank you for agreeing to it without much argument.
Well,
I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think it's nice for Granada, I don't know that it's Sam's responsibility to make it a, top priority.
Well, it has to be restored to
It has to be
no worse than
restored.
it is now.
Yes, that's true, but if it's an added expense to go with another firm and separate that out in our contract, then that's something that.
I think what we're proposing, what they're proposing is reduce this out of this contract and then use that to get some people who do this all the time.
Yeah, for the same amount of money.
I would
So
hope
no additional cost, you're getting this, you're restoring
Probably.
it to its former
Current
state,
Current state.
to its current
It's
state.
pre-project state.
So we
Right,
need to
with
have,
no additional expense, I'd
We need-
be fine with that.
we need to have photographs taken.
Honestly, I wouldn't limit them to the current state if they knew some
Well, that's why I
great
said,
way to go
that's why
better.
I said no worse than the current state.
Right.
Thank you.
Looks like Tim has a comment.
At no additional expense.
May I address the board?
By all means.
Please.
Yeah, Leonard, completely understand and remember that whole situation, and I do appreciate that it took us a long time to get that area fixed up.
It's still not, drive by and look.
Well, I have a few suggestions. We've tightened the spec up significantly to call out hydro seeding and have an entire line item for landscape restoration, knowing that we don't want to get into that situation again. And may I suggest that we also maybe expand the landscaping language to include the area that we built 7 or 8 years ago, to have that rototilled and new mulch come in, and have that landscaped and hydroseeded also under this project.
But that should have been done, and it wasn't done before, so it shouldn't be an additional expense.
Yes, that is correct. But over the time, since that contract was completed, you know, grass is growing back there. Again, probably not as robust as the areas that were not ever disturbed. But that is a suggestion, and we could take this whole landscape item out as you suggested, and or maybe leave it in and have 3 or 4 professional landscape people listed as you know, you must contract and have a subcontract with the landscape person to do all the final beautification of the area after construction.
Now,
Just a suggestion.
to make this non-trivial thing even more complicated, Granada has been working with RCD, and RCD is way overdue in bringing us a report on how they're going to manage a project to improve the surface of the whole property, the whole 4 or 5 acres. And so if that's still gonna go forward, I'm starting to worry that if not, but if that's still gonna go forward, then that needs to dovetail with this somehow. And you know, Granada might have to contribute more than our percentage share to have the restoration actually be an improvement over the current situation.
Well, one of the things, Leonard, is you don't just put seeds down in California and expect them to grow.
Yeah, well, RCD is the expert on this, they're
Right,
supposed to
and
give
so
us management plan.
timing is critical, and this project may not have the right kind of timing. It may actually have to wait a year, because we're getting down, if you look, poppies are reseeding themselves right now. So it's the time of year to be putting the seeds down now, covering them so they don't get blown away or eaten by the birds. And then when the rains do come, then they can take off. But this project, if we're looking at a September 4th, for the bids to go out, we won't be able to seed until next year and have them healthy. You can, the root systems depend on a certain level of moisture in the soil.
So what's the construction timeline for this?
We've said 180 days, starting November 15th is what,
So
So that's 6
construction will be
months.
going on during the rainy
Yep.
season?
yeah, because as per the settlement with the regional board, the construction has to start, I think it said December of this year, and should be completed, they've given us 1 year to complete the contract.
Oh,
Then
that
maybe
is
we
gonna
could
be a
just take the
mess.
landscaping out
No,
of the contract,
oh,
out of this contract, and have
Yeah,
that
that's-
as a separate
that's
issue.
what I thought we're talking about, other than Tim is suggesting there's ways to keep it in,
No, I know.
but
Kim, why would you
Right.
recommend keeping it in? What's your rationale?
Well, to keep it in would streamline it, and so you wouldn't have to have multiple contracts with a landscaper and a general contractor. And
So it reduces confusion and the number of agenda items at board meetings.
I don't know about the confusion, I don't think anything's gonna help.
Yeah, the other issue is, if we separate it out, there'll be a very thin line, finishing line between the contractor when he finishes his job and when the hydro seeding has to start. Because the contractor will still have to address a lot of punch list items which will get stretched, and the hydro seeding contractor will not be able to start his job. So it is good to give the responsibility to the contractor and have language in the bid document saying that he must hire an experienced hydro seeding contractor who will be approved by by SAM. We can put in some language like that.
Yeah, you could specify it.
We could specify something like that, so that it'll be the prime responsibility of the contractor to finish the entire project.
that might work.
That makes sense.
Sometimes when you have I've seen these in more often in like a Caltrans type project, but you can have a landscape maintenance bid item that doesn't pay until the plants are actually established. I've seen that done.
That
So
makes
that's a
sense.
model, an additional bid item for landscape establishment or something along those lines.
Establishment of
So
plants
the
is
plants,
good.
yeah, exactly.
As
So
long as
that
they're
would be a way
permitted.
to address that, but, and that could be something that would be handled either by the hydro seed or some other landscape type contractor who could do that sort of work, cause they're used to doing it.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
that's another possible way to do it. I mean, it does make sense for the reason that Kishan suggested, I think, to try to keep it, be part of this contract, that as Tim was saying, the specs have been tightened up. I mean, it calls for the engineer to approve what's done, but we could also add on those other couple of things, like have a landscape establishment bid item. The only disadvantage of that was we keep the project open to a certain extent, but
So what month, what calendar month, would you expect it to be closed up and ready for the hydro seeding?
It'll be
about March, so at the tail end of the rainy season.
Yeah,
But we could, again, Colin Kishan was saying, tighten the spec up and mandate that they water. They put a temporary hose across the street or something like that, and sprinklers, and, you know, we can really do it that way. I wouldn't suggest they come out with a water truck.
no,
would
that
just ruin it.
destroys the
Yeah.
intent.
So, the other issue then with it being that late, right at the end of the rainy season, is to make sure we don't have a recurrence of the fine particles of topsoil getting blown away before the plants have come up. I'm far from an expert on that, so I have no idea how that would be done.
Well, the first project, as you recall, ended toward the end of the summer. And it was in the fall when the ribbon cutting was. We're a little bit different. Again, we need to get going because of the agreement with the water board.
Mm-hmm.
But we might be able to catch the tail end of the rainy season, but we could make provisions to provide, you know, potable water and irrigate, you know, once a day or once during the evening, and hold them accountable to it with a line item that doesn't pay. until we're all satisfied.
And with the establishment of the plants as part of that.
Exactly.
Okay, so how would this be handled? Would Kishin and or council make changes, or who would make the changes in the bid documents?
We prepared the bid documents, you know, with assistance from the attorneys, and we can make these modifications and send them for your review, you know, outside before the next meeting. That work?
They give you enough
should.
time? I thought we had a tight timeline.
We don't have timeline, but
Yeah.
we're working, as you see, these are drafts, and we're still working on them right now, fine tuning the technical specs and drawings and elevations and double checking and triple checking. So we can incorporate that into the work that we're doing right now.
I mean, there's one, once the specs are out, then it's also possible to do addendums. We prefer not to do that, but that is, so the specs can get out, bidders can get interested, and then you send out an addendum to the people that are interested that identifies things like, it could be a new bid schedule that's got the extra bid item and some text that goes with it. That's one way to do it. That wouldn't hold things up too much.
Yeah, but since we are anyway planning on advertising not earlier than September 4th, we still have time. If
Still have
we have to
time.
bring it back to the next board meeting, we can bring it back on 27th.
And we have our board meeting this week, so we have to try and find out what's going on with our CD.
There you go, right.
Yeah, I mean, if RCD is gonna do this, it would make sense to,
Well, they were gonna be,
coordinate to the
they were gonna
extent we
be
can.
the project manager and then hire somebody to
Yeah.
Right.
do the work.
But if you're gonna do the whole strip, or the whole property, it would make sense maybe to have the same person do the whole thing, including
Yeah.
restoring this area, if the timing was right.
Okay,
Alright, sounds good.
so do we need any more discussion, or we've made a decision?
I think
Okay,
we got direction, we'll bring it back in the next board meeting.
So don't need any board action on this tonight?
Good.
We were talking about bringing it, having it be
Okay.
brought back. If that's the pleasure of the board, we can just do that, and that's simple, we don't have to act tonight.
That makes sense.
right,
I think there's time.
so we're done. Thank you.
And I was, right, it was on page 82, under references, there's a document authored by Matthew Clark.
There you go. Okay, so we're done with, thank you for all the input on this one. So now we have item 7C, authorize the general manager to enter into a contract with Calcon Systems to complete the chemical pumps project in the amount not to exceed $80,750.
We have a small presentation.
There, I got it.
I'm looking for 82.
Yeah.
The presentation,
You're doing a PowerPoint thing?
Yeah, very
I
small,
will
Okay.
move back.
very short presentation.
Pull up a chair, have room to table.
Can the lights at this end of the room be separately controlled from that end?
Here, release the one. There we
There
go.
we go.
Okay.
Well, I had mine leaving those.
Yeah, so this is basically the chemical area which we'd like to address, wherein we have sodium hypochlorite, sodium bisulfite, and ferric chloride tanks. So the replacement plan was basically required to replace the existing sodium hypochlorite pumps, sodium bisulfite pumps, ferric chloride pumps. Then we have the return activated sludge sodium hypochlorite pump and the carrier water distribution system. Now, the reason for replacement of all these pumps were that existing pumps were very old. They could not communicate with the existing PLC because These pumps were very old and they were not built to that particular logic. There was heavy corrosion as these are outdoors, exposed to very severe weather conditions. And these pumps had frequent and very lengthy repair cycles wherein we would not get a lot of spare parts. We had to really search around everywhere and get a couple of them. The pumps which are primarily used earlier were of pulsating flow due to the very nature of the pumps. And the repair was basically the machine downtime was large, and as I've stated, the spare parts were not available, and these are special pumps which required lubrication. And therefore, we decided to change over to a new type of pumps, but at the same time, the installation of these pumps was very critical, and they had to be done one chemical delivery at a time, meaning finish sodium hypochlorite, then jump to sodium bisulfite, and then jump to ferric chloride in that manner.
Does each
Because-
chemical only have one pump?
Come again?
Does each chemical only have one pump?
Yes, they have one or two pumps, but they have separate dedicated pumps.
They have one or two pumps?
They have one pump and a one standby pump.
Oh, so you have a redundancy?
Yes, we have a redundancy. And it is also required to install a bypass to ensure proper transition, as any stoppage could lead to permit violations. So it was very important that we have the old system going concurrently while we are tearing up and doing the new system. So the improvements with the new system, we have more automatic control, both off-site as well as remote. And these are state-of-the-art technology pumps, which are called magnetic coupled gear pumps, which ensure smooth, constant delivery, while the earlier pumps had pulsating flows. We have built manifolds with very less footprint, and by the very nature of the pumps, it saves chemicals by not under and overreacting due to the time delays. And just to give you an example, less amount of hypochlorite has been used. Over the past 1 month we have checked, and there's an estimated savings of approximately 10,000 per year because we are using less amount of hypochlorite. Quickly run through the pictures. This is the chemical area electrical panel. The before one is actually housed outside, and these are the panels which have corroded badly. So we made new panels and shifted it indoors. Those are the after panels which have got a nice digital display also. So the left side you have sodium hypochlorite pumps, before and after. You see the before pumps have all got corroded badly, and the right hand side you have the magnetic coupled the gear pumps, the new pumps which I talked about.
These are housed indoors or outdoors?
These are all outsourced. And then we have the sodium bisulfite pumps, which are before and after. This is the electrical work which was there before. You can see some of the conduits which are actually exposing. You can see this part of it which is already exposed. So we had to do all these things. We had to remove the wiring, the piping, install the pumps, and all of it had to be done concurrently while work is going on with the existing pump, because we couldn't really switch off supply. So that ends my presentation. Now we can go back to the staff report. And Dev, have the lights on, please. Yeah. So the chemical control panel project was actually authorized by the board in last July. We had gone out for a bid, and we had got 3 bidders, and Calcon was the lowest. We had brought it to the board last July, and they were awarded the project. So while they were doing the electrical control panel project, we realized that the pumps and the piping also had to be changed because of the nature, because of the way it had corroded. So at that point of time, we felt it is easier to ask them to continue the process while they were doing the electrical work. And that is why work was carried out, and we brought it back to the board to ratify this project.
Yeah, I guess my only question is, if the work has already been done, we're being asked to approve something after the fact.
Yeah, that's
And,
why.
and I understand it had to be
Yeah.
done, but it seems to me there may have been a way to bring it to us before this. So we could have approved it.
Yeah, but then I would have had an opportunity to make a big noise about huge payments to Calcon without competitive bidding.
But they were the lowest bidder,
For the original job, not for this job.
right?
This
But,
job is a whole new job that,
but every time you ask for a bid with somebody who's already done the work, so it's a continuation of the same work.
no, it's new work. It's new work. The new work was the pump replacement, right?
Clearly, yes.
Felt to be easier to do it in conjunction with the older job that they had already bid on.
Yeah, but in this case, the way the work was done was, it had to be done one at a time. I mean, concurrently we had to do it, some parts of it, so as they were progressing, we had to go into different areas, so it was kind of difficult to stop it at the particular place and say, okay, let's go out and bid for this entire project. 'Cause
No, I'm not complaining about the bidding, I'm just complaining about us not knowing about it until after it's already been done. And I'm not really complaining, I'm just wondering why we're finding out about it after the fact, that's all.
The project has not been completed. It is in a state where still some amount of work is to be done. So at this point of time, we were able to get all the costs, so we said, okay, well, let's bring it to the board and then
Gotcha.
get it ratified. That was
So
the-
we
So
could
the
go,
project-
we could go out for more bids and take longer.
I didn't think I was asking for that,
No.
actually.
No, so if I understand correctly, it's like, we're in the middle of this thing,
Yes, the project was not completed.
you get like, you tore out the drywall and you realized, there's something going on behind it, and I gotta fix that too.
We started removing
So
the pipes.
this is we're in the middle of it thing, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, at first we
Yeah.
thought that we could possibly order the pumps and do all the work in-house, doing the pipes and all that. Then we
Right.
realized that the magnitude of the job was so much that it was difficult to have somebody doing full-time for this job.
I
That's when-
think we should stop and just go out for more bids.
and when did we find this out, Keisha?
We've been working on this job for the past 2 months at least.
Thank you.
So
And
we
we've been
knew we
doing
were gonna have
gradual-
additional costs two
Yeah, we-
months ago?
Exactly, and we've been doing gradually,
Wait a
doing
minute,
the sodium hypochlorite, then doing the sodium bisulfite, finding something more needs to be done, so okay, we tear it up and then do it.
but Keisha, you didn't say that 2 months ago we were going to need, we knew we were going to have additional costs, right? That's not what you said that in the middle, 2 months ago, we started the project, and somewhere between the start and a little while ago, we realized we have more costs.
Correct, as we were progressing with the job, then we realized that we were incurring more and more costs.
Right, it had already started,
It was already started,
so
so we couldn't.
it was not known ahead of time that we
Correct.
were going to have an overrun of costs.
Exactly, that's why we were in a situation where we couldn't stop the job and say, okay, let's stop here and then go out for bids. It was difficult for us to do that.
Oh, I think we should.
Well, I think that's
Okay.
silly, but
Oh, thank you.
my question was,
Sure.
my question didn't have anything to do with going out for bids,
Okay.
Catherine.
It has to do with the timing of.
It had to do with the timing of when we found out, that's all.
Yeah.
Simple question, not complicated, not asking for bids.
Okay.
So you're asking, when did you know and when did you know it?
So,
Well, there you go.
You
I-
got it.
I move that we
Right.
authorize the general manager to enter into contract with Calcon Systems to complete the chemical pumps project.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any more discussion?
Oh, no, we don't.
No, we had enough. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. You can go ahead. Now we have, well, that's the facts. So now we have, do we have a general manager?
Yes.
We do, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'd like to address 2 issues which we are facing in the plant. We'd like to inform the board about it. So I have that on a PowerPoint if you
Okay,
could
sure, I
have that
can
on the
roll.
screen. Just for ease because
I can move.
I believe that.
Are we good? I was wondering the same exact question.
I thought it was a good question.
It was a good question. I was wondering when did we know?
I'm really thrilled that you're doing it. No question.
You and me both.
Well, no, I said, you and I were both. You have
Okay, we wanted to inform the board about two issues that we are having in the plant. The first one is on the plant emergency generator. The generator which is in the plant is pretty old, it's about close to 20 years. And we observed leakage from the radiator on July 26th. Therefore,
Was that during a routine test or in between tests?
in between tests, we just observed it.
Uh-oh.
It didn't show up in one of our routine tests earlier. So we had to get a rental generator, which we received on July 28th. Hooked up the rental generator on July 30th. Completed the radiator repair last week. And since the rental generator was already here, we decided on going ahead with the annual maintenance, which was actually planned 2 months from now. Because for an annual maintenance, we would need to rent the generator since the generator was already here and was hooked up. We decided to go ahead and perform the annual maintenance. The estimate so far for the repair and rentals is about 70,000, which will be known, and we'll bring it back to the board on August 27th with final costs. The generator has been repaired, everything is functioning fine now. They're just doing the annual maintenance. We also observed that while the radiator repair was going on, we found out that the battery charger had also died. There was a problem with the battery charger, so we fixed that. Now the generator is all operational, but we'll get the final costs and bring it back to the board next meeting. We just wanted to inform the board about it.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
In case anybody thinks that's a lot, what is the replacement cost for sufficient capacity generator?
We actually have that already in our 20-year CIP, and I think it's about 600,000 if I remember right.
Yeah.
It's
Something like that.
something like that, yeah.
How
But
much,
we have it on our 20-year CIP, and that's planned for a couple of years from now.
how much did we save by not having to bring in the rental generator another time? What is the cost of bringing in a rental generator and removing it?
And the hookup and all that.
Yes.
Probably around,
I signed some checks earlier this year, or last year, so.
yeah, they charge about, with the hookup and all that thing, they charge about $5,000, I think,
So
approximately.
thank you for saving us $5,000.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Wait, there's more.
There's more.
One more item, huh?
One more.
10-inch fire hall.
Oh.
Oh, this was the one with the meter.
Yes, with the pictures.
10-inch?
10-inch.
But are fire hydrants that big?
Yes?
They
The
are?
fire protection one.
You want to get a fire here out quickly.
Is a fire hydrant really 10-inch?
They make, no, they come in different sizes.
Oh.
Alright. Just talk over them, they're just gonna go on
Just
and
keep
on.
going.
Having a side conversation, go ahead.
Okay, so this is regarding the 10-inch fire line. We realized that our water meter was very high. This was realized a couple of months back, and we started the investigation.
Starting at the corner here, how many houses down would that be?
Two.
Oh.
Which one? 484 is
Two or
the
three.
4,000.
Four, I hear four.
Fourth house, yes.
Between the
Between
there's,
two
we have a
houses.
picture.
That's
Pass
coming.
this around if you'd like.
It's in the
Do
slide.
you have it?
It's in the slide.
You got that,
It'll
okay.
come up.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. So it's in the same area between two houses. There's a 10-inch, 2-inch water, 1.5-inch gas, and phone lines. Currently, we are not certain of the exact location of the line, but the SAM staff are on 24-hour fire watch since yesterday.
Oh,
I bet they're thrilled with that.
We've been having SAM staff monitor the plant, they're here 24 hours.
okay.
So the distance between the 484 and 456 pillar proposed is about 10 feet. The contractor has been contacted this morning, and he'll be on T&M starting tomorrow. We intend bringing it back to the board next meeting with more details of cost. Let me just show you the map. about it.
So, where the 10-inch comes, so that is in the Kehoe neighborhood where this is at. That's Kehoe, down by the Google sign, that's Kehoe that runs into Pillarcitos. 484 is the fourth house in. So we have the 10-inch fire main is the yellow line that's running through there to the, I had it stop at the trees just because I had stopped the line there. But it actually does go into the plant. So there's the 10-inch fire, there's the 2-inch domestic water line, there's the 1.5-inch gas, and there's also the phone lines that are pretty much in that same orientation and follow that same path.
Wait a minute.
So you can see where it could be problematic for us to do exploratory kind of digging to try to find
Half Moon
something.
Bay allowed that neighborhood to go in on top of our lines?
Well,
Apparently.
so
Apparently.
the exact location of
Huh,
that 10-inch
somebody
line
wasn't paying attention.
is,
Oh my God, yeah, those houses are so close together.
Yeah.
They're super close
That's
together.
the above ground.
So Tim, is that an easement on one of the property owner's property, or is it,
That was my next
or is the
question.
10 feet city owned?
So
that's an interesting question.
It's also an important question.
you're gonna talk about the
Yeah, it's the easement. I have a map that I got from back in, I think it was 1988. Was that that PDF map that we got?
I
was
have
from-
that too.
Yeah, we have that PDF map. I believe it's from 1988. It's kind of interesting. It shows the easement between houses 3 and 4, but it also shows an easement between houses 4 and 5, which is clearly about 20 feet wide, which would have made sense.
Yes.
This
But
is
So why it went between the other two
impossible.
makes
Oh my
no
goodness,
sense.
that's
the-
crazy.
Question is, was that disclosed, that easement disclosed to the property owners when they purchased it? That
No, so-
should be a, title, on a title report.
Should be, yeah.
It
And
sh-
we should get copies of those.
So there's no place that isn't owned by private property owners, there's no public,
Well, the-
city-owned path.
There's
there.
something, a dotted line between, but it's not
The
the right place.
CCWD,
That looks like an easement line, not a property line.
Yeah, but,
right,
No, that one's,
but there's,
but that's not the right place.
if you look
Yeah.
closely
Well,
on the,
that's true.
Leonard, if you look closely on the satellite photo, you'll see there's an above ground, you know, the pipe comes up and over, so right at the street, right by the driveway.
right between the two houses.
So somebody, it's an easement or owned, because that's permanently occupying space, it looks like at least 8 feet across.
I would say we need a title report.
Well,
It's,
clearly this is not an ideal situation. I have a
this
question about.
is not an ideal situation, and the problem is, there was a number of years ago where they actually did some work. I wasn't there, George wasn't there, neither one of us that have been here for some time remember, but we don't know how close that 10 inches to the foundation of the houses that's there currently.
It's gonna be close.
It's gonna be extremely close, and we'll take pictures and we'll have
It can't
pictures
be
at
very
the
far.
27th meeting,
Picture.
depending on what's going on. We just
Yeah,
don't know
10
what's going
feet.
on.
Between the two houses,
So you have 5 and
you have
5
5 and
to the
5,
fence, yeah,
right.
standard
And those are the
setback.
setbacks.
That's standard
And
setback.
in theory, those setbacks are the easement. But if that wasn't on somebody's, I see the Half Moon Bay engineer shaking his head. But if that wasn't
Yeah.
disclosed on their title reports, it's a really nasty
Well-
situation then.
That's for them, but
No,
do we-
for us too.
what do we understand right now about the cause of the leak?
So what we believe the cause to be is, it looks like it runs between the third, can we go back to the satellite imaging?
I can see the easement on here.
I wanna see it up there.
Yeah, I
So
can
we're all
see-
talking
I'm
about the
just-
same thing. So see where I have between the 3rd and 4th houses, right where it makes that corner? So they believe it to be C900, which is the big plastic line that they use most of the time now, right? So they think what happens is
So
it goes,
relatively recent,
what's that?
relatively modern.
This has been in use for some time. C900, so. I assumed it would have been ductile until I was talking to some of the guys in the water department, they
Yeah.
said, no, we think it's C900, I went, okay. So we'll find out more once we start digging, but they believe it to be, if it is C900, even if it's ductile, where it goes and then when it turns, they think that might be where the leak is. So where it makes the 45-degree turn, that particular joint might have slowly, if it doesn't have a proper kicker block or something of that nature to keep the force act, like I said, it's a 10-inch line, then it could have slipped back a little bit. That's what they're thinking.
And so the normal flow in this line is 0?
Normal flow in the line should in fact be 0 because it's a dedicated fire line.
So, CCOBD is somewhere along, or possibly finished, replacing residential meters anyway with electronic read.
Yep.
Has that one been replaced with electronic read?
I don't believe it has been.
Do you know if it's planned?
That I don't know. I can find
Because,
out.
That could help us save money.
That one needs to be electronic read so that we can get notified right away of a leak.
Yeah,
Can
well,
can we just line that pipe with something?
we won't know what our options are until we actually expose it and see what's going on there. We might have other options, but we'll address that at the latter meeting this month, once we have more information on it.
How deep is the line?
That we're not 100% sure. We think it might be about 5 feet, maybe.
Do you know what year it
It's
was
like
installed?
right at the foundation depth, right at the threshold of the base of the foundations usually.
These two houses here?
Tim, do you know what year it was installed?
So I wonder if that has.
That has been there before, either George and I have been here, we've been here 30 years, so.
So C900
But
went
you
into
don't see
use
it on
in
this view.
75, so that could have been there. What?
Yeah,
How old was
You
the
don't see-
subdivision?
No.
Yes, you do.
those
Between
houses
these two
weren't built,
houses, so it's.
when we started, those houses weren't
Oh,
there.
no, you said-
Right,
So,
Yeah, it comes up to it, but then
Catherine's
it
comments,
turns
what's
here.
that?
89 was that subdivision? There you go.
Subdivision 89.
89, it's when the subdivision was built, so I started in 88 and those houses weren't built.
I can see the easement actually.
The
on that
houses weren't
subdivision
there.
map.
No,
Which is the other thing
In
that was
fact,
shown. If you
when-
blow it up big enough, you can see the easement there.
I think you may have heard, we're really interested in the root cause.
of,
The leak.
yeah, and we won't know that for sure
Right.
until they expose it, so we can see what actually
we want-
happened.
We want pictures,
Yes,
Yeah.
we will have pictures.
because we may need to have a discussion.
So, and apparently, the homeowner said that something happened there. I think her timeline might have been off. She said 10 years ago. I don't recall anything there 10 years ago.
John Davis said he did.
10 years
He
ago?
walked- Yeah, he walked by the house, he said he did remember something happening there.
But if it did, we have no pictures of
Yeah.
that
I don't
or
know.
what happened.
Something happened, like in the pipe was leaking?
In the same area,
In the same
Okay.
area.
in the very same area, so.
You know,
He said, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't,
And that would be.
I would suggest, sending somebody over to county recorder's office and looking for easements and checking with CCWD, if necessary through a Public Records Act request to see what easements they have
the
written down.
cheapest is to get a title report from the title company on that, and they will
But what if
show,
the title company missed it?
they will show that you can ask for a new one. Sending someone over is.
Oh, okay, you're saying we could commission a new title,
Yes.
okay.
There's a reference on the subdivision map to an easement, it says a document number. And that's the other, that's the drawing that Keisha had up there before. I'm looking at a
Right.
blown up version, cause Tim sent it to me this afternoon, I didn't look at it blown up.
you have to blow it up to really.
It's really hard to read, but it says 10-foot wide sewer authority Midcoastside easement document number 82106-831, I believe. It says 10, then it also says 10-foot POE dedicated by this map. So I'm not sure what the two mean, but There's two references there, we got a subdivision map and then we've got a reference to a document.
So I would think that normally you don't put a line like this on the edge of an easement, you put it as close to the center as you can, depending on what else is in the same easement.
And just think if
There's a lot
somebody
of
builds
things
a
there.
fence.
Yeah, at first there's.
If there's something built on the easement,
These are the
that
same.
was illegal, and we have the right to do whatever it takes to maintain our facilities that are in the easement, and
Even if it was a house
I don't believe the property owner has any
or a
recourse.
deck. No, they have to have accepted the easement. It's not as simple as you're making it sound.
Easements are recognized.
All right, well,
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Fascinating.
Mark.
Well,
sounds like we're gonna,
Another closed session agenda item.
Yeah.
let's see how the.
Well, we'll
repair
switch
goes.
one out then.
Yeah.
See how the dig, see how the dig goes.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keisha. Okay, all right.
Goodness.
That's what- close one.
Hmm.
Oh, wait, I know.
And,
You can get it, you can check it out like this, and then, can't you get it from
now we
the
have.
street?
Oh,
Okay, so now we have
Okay.
any more items?
I have a question, Carl.
Yes.
These documents, one I can sign, one has to be signed by Kathy Matthews, recording secretary, who is no longer a recording
Yes,
secretary. You
I
may want
think-
to,
Yeah, is that, what, this is the resolution?
this is the minutes.
minutes.
Minutes?
So I don't, someone else can sign them later. I don't mind signing them, but I thought I'd point that out.
It's an attestation, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we have to, I don't, I
one
mean,
of us is secretary treasurer. That
the
person
secretary
is-
could always
Well, I will
attest.
sign it, but it says the recording secretary, so.
Well, the recording secretary is one of the three of us. I
Okay.
guess it's
Yeah.
probably Keisha and I, because we're both taking notes. The minutes will come from these notes.
Secretary for that meeting.
Yeah, so it was Kathy.
What?
It's an old meeting where she has taken notes.
Right, no, I know.
Right, so it would have been July 23rd, so
Yeah.
one more thing to wrestle with.
Okay.
Just saying.
Okay.
Are we done?
We're making progress, yeah, one more, do we have any, that's done with number 8, we're done with the 8?
Attorney's report.
That's it.
Okay.
Nothing else
All right.
on my side.
Now we have number 9.
Yes, I will be pretty brief. I was at the Casa Attorneys Committee meeting, learned a bunch of things, only one of which I'll talk about. And that is that in late June, Goleta Sanitary District got one of those letters that the attorneys that are enforcing the California Voting Rights Act, demanding that agencies move to district elections. I believe the city got one of those.
Oh, yeah. we
The
got
city
it.
got one of those, and
Goletas are
school
regulated
districts have been getting them, and now apparently they're moving on to sanitary districts. I guess maybe there's too
Right.
many attorneys, not enough money, but,
How big is Goleta?
How big is
3,000
Goleta?
3,000 people. I'm joking.
I don't know exactly. But-
It's,
Can you bring the driveway there? and then
it
drive?
serves a small suburb of Santa Barbara.
There's a university there, if I'm not mistaken.
Must
The
have been a
university
law,
is in Santa
must have
Barbara.
been a law student looking for a project.
Well, there's a law firm out of Santa Monica that does most of these, but this
Yeah.
firm is, where are they? Out of Santa Barbara, in Santa Maria.
What's the name of the attorney?
This is, the attorney that wrote it was a retired judge, Frank Ochoa. 31,000 people live in Goleta. It is a college town. I believe the University of California, Santa Barbara is actually in
It
Goleta.
is right there. Right.
Pretty sure.
We know that.
Not Isla Vista, that's a different town.
Steve?
Yeah, so anyway, they're getting around to sanitary districts, which, that means there's, they'll eventually get around to water and sanitary districts, I suppose, or
But they
community
have-
services
They have to
districts.
demonstrate that, there is some protected group that's disenfranchised, and the smaller the district is, the harder it gets to do that.
Oh, well, let's
They
keep
managed
going.
it
I'd
with
like
the
to.
city.
Sure, but the law is slanted in favor of having district elections.
That's
Because
right.
the law is written by lawyers.
Let's keep going, please.
And that concludes
I
my
second.
report.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
No directors, nothing I think?
He didn't,
Nothing.
Okay.
he didn't recognize.
Oh, okay.
Go for it, Jim. Go for it.
Nothing for today, we're all set, okay?
Uh,
Alright,
Oh,
Aye, we're adjourned.
Meeting
Thank you.
adjourned.